This is Coda Radio, episode 225 for October 3rd, 2016. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This show is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and join us live over at jblive.tv is our host, the powerful and perched Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike!
Oh, Misa here again?
Oh, jeez. Jeez, no, that is like some sort of awful Donald Trump microphone audio right now. What is going on over there?
Oh, Misa probably not coming through the microphone correctly.
Jesus, worst intro in history.
No, Misa coming through the Yeti. I don't know what your problem is.
Are you like cupping? Are you cupping and shouting into the microphone right now?
Is Misa too close?
God. It's the worst thing ever.
Misa, maybe put my trousers back on.
Yeah. That'd be good. That'd be good. And get Mike back in there, too, because, geez. Hello, Mr. Dominic. Are you there?
Hello, Mr. Fisher. Jar Jar keeps coming in drunk and taking my microphone.
Yeah, it happens here in the studio, too. It really, you know, it's been a busy weekend here at the JB1 studios. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, Chris. I had an amazing week last week.
You did. An amazing week. See, I think I remember I talked to you on Monday, and then we talked later that night for the debates.
Yes.
Doesn't that feel like that was like weeks ago now?
It feels like it was some sort of horrific nightmare that couldn't be true. Then I woke up and read the Journal and the Times and cried myself to sleep for the remainder of that following day.
So what's turning things around for you?
Well, I had a conference I was going to go to, as you recall, the Release Notes conference.
Oh yeah, the one you paid big bucks for.
And I did not get on that jet plane.
Really? You had a last minute change of heart.
Last minute change of heart, yes.
You know,
that is our secret topic for the day.
Now, I think this is a great frickin' topic because I'll tell you what, Mike, there have been times where at the last minute I decide I don't want to do it and it sort of sucks, but it's like the decision I have to make. And then there are times where I decide, you know what, I've committed, I'm going to power through this thing, and then I get there and I regret it so much.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be one of those situations. Yeah.
And I just got back from a conference myself. I went to a conference last week as well. So I think this is a great topic for today's show.
This is a great topic for today.
What happened? Tell me about it. Give Chris a picture here. Paint it for me.
So it was like the perfect storm. As you know, I now have a 5-month-old in my house.
Yeah.
Who's just about crawling. He's almost there.
Oh man.
He will be.
You know, it's funny. Especially I remember when I was a first-time parent, I was so excited about crawling. I really wanted them to be mobile. Man, would I take that back.
I'm sure I will regret it. My house.
Oh man, at that age too, because now they can put everything in their mouth. They're mobile and it all goes in the mouth.
In fact, he damaged an iPhone 6S by drooling on it so hardcore that it had to be replaced by, thank God, Apple Care. Yeah, pretty bad. So, you know, it was literally the eve of the conference. And I have been doing what we call in the office ponying about the conference for about a week, which is basically a nice way to say bitching about it.
Oh, I do that sometimes too, yeah.
Yeah. Saying, you know what, I don't know
There's
why
so much, and here's how I usually go. Man, just now that I've cleared my schedule and there's this huge block of time, there's so much more I could be doing with it that feels like it'd be more valuable for myself and the business. Did it kind of go like that?
Went exactly like that. With an extra couple things of spice. The conference sessions got released about what they were going to be talking about. And, you know, I should have known this because I do listen to the people who host the podcast that also host the conference. And I should have known that it was going to be like, you know, an indie-focused, desperately trying to make money on the App Store sort of thing. So I'm like, there's no one who's going to pay our rates to develop an app for them here. You know who we don't want to talk to? Other developers, right? Like, really,
you don't want to go to a conference for the echo chamber effect.
Well, not even the echo chamber. It's like, you know, I can't sell you consulting services if you're making $100 a month on your app, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. And so a lot of the sessions.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't go to. I would. You know. So Mike, I would say I made a mistake probably 7 years ago. So I can't remember. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it's just a little while. Maybe it was 5 years ago. It was just a little while after the Linux Action Show started taking sponsorships, and I got my idea that, well, if I'm going to do sponsorships, I'm going to do them differently. I'm going to do them better than everybody else does them, and I'm going to go meet these people in person. I'm going to shake their hand. I'm going to tell them about what we do, and I'm going to meet them. And so I decided, well, this is the year that the Linux Action Show goes to Linux Fest Northwest, and I shake some hands. And, you know, in my mind, there's people like Penguin Computing there and all the companies that are in Linux there. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to go to this conference, I'm going to shake some hands, I'm going to walk away with some potential advertisers, and that's going to be great. It's going to grow the show, it's going to grow our revenue, and I'll know these people. They'll likely be locals because it's a local Linux event. This is going to be a total win-win. And I got there, and the best I got was an exchange of business cards and a couple of emails here and there afterwards. But the conference thing is not good for direct sales. It's good for bumping a relationship that you have in email. Like there's people I see only at conferences that I talk to email all year around, and it's great to bump that relationship. Go have lunch with somebody while you're there. The conferences are great for somebody putting a name to a face if they already know about you or something like that. But for sales, it is, man, it's rough.
Well, and I think there's a couple things here, right? Like, and this is probably a bigger topic for multiple shows, but I've been struggling a lot with this whole idea of like inbound sales and outbound sales. And I'm actually a pretty traditional conservative, that doesn't mean Donald Trump kind of guy, where, to me, sales is buying someone a martini in New York or in New Jersey somewhere and selling them something.
You're what like my family calls a Mitt Romney conservative. Is that?
I'm a Mitt Romney conservative, except I only have one wife because I can't imagine the horror, the absolute suffering of having more than one. I mean, that is, oh, gee, shit, you're recording this. She's probably listening. So, the idea of some sort of magical conference where I'm going to go to and, even, I don't know, do we want to get into it? Should we just do it? Should we just go for it?
Yeah.
I know you had stuff in the
I got a lot of stuff, but man, I can talk about that somewhere else. All
right, we'll do it somewhere else then.
Okay.
I've been for about 6 months now exploring all these outbound sales, inbound sales.
Yeah, we've been talking about it a little bit.
We've been talking about it a little bit. I've been alluding to it. I've been running kind of promos on the show, things like that.
Yep, and you've experimented a little bit with backing an open source project. We just talked about that really recently.
Right, backing Vapor. Right, we're a sponsor of Vapor. And I got to be honest, anything that's come in would have come in anyway without, a 70% discount. Which I think is really interesting. I feel like a lot of these.
You think even on the show?
Well, it's interesting because the stuff on the show almost don't need the discount because they come in, we do the discount thing, and then they just come in anyway.
Yeah.
That's more of a situation where they
were going to come in anyways, kind of a thing.
They were going to come in anyway, and it just gave them an excuse to tell their manager, "Hey, it's only $1,000 or whatever."
So,
right?
Can we focus on Vapor for a second? It seems like it might be the execution. Like, what if Vapor were to have a logo on the website or something like that? Would it be different? And that might, and of course, might cost more. But would that be different? Because every now and then when I see a project that says sponsored by DigitalOcean, like it's usually pretty prominent.
Well, right now we're one of only 2 corporate sponsors of Vapor. First of all,
right, sure, yeah, and it's different for projects that are establishing a brand and things like that, where they have a very heavy visual component to their product. I understand that.
I would even say to Vapor, we haven't. I don't think they have a problem at all. We haven't changed our marketing or our sales tactics to really pitch Vapor at all. Vapor is something we're doing internally, and we're not really trying to sell it to customers.
Here's where I think of Vapor. Okay, but here's where I'm going with this is the reason why I wouldn't be surprised that it doesn't bring you any additional referrals or interest is because for people that just become sort of all of a sudden aware of the Vapor project, there's no way to know it's associated with Buccaneer. And so my off-the-head idea I had was, imagine if the sponsorship actually went something like this. Here is a little bit of cash to do a Vapor podcast. And the Vapor podcast is brought to you by Buccaneer. That would
sounds like you want to make a deal.
No, actually, I wasn't even thinking about it in turn. But So one of the things I go to for this kind of stuff is I look at really early radio and television to try to compare where it was at, where podcast is at right now. And back in this stage of television's development and radio, shows had singular sponsors. My favorite example is The Adventures of Superman, which is a fun 1950s Superman show played by Christopher Reeves.
Yep.
It was sponsored for its entire run by a single cereal company. I'm trying to cereal, like the kind you eat, not the kind I'm trying to pronounce. And the entire run of it was one sponsor because that was, and they had a bunch of like crossover commercials or events in person where Christopher Reeves would show up in costume. But they were just trying to sell cereal to kids. And the reason I point that out is they made an entire brand and business off doing that. And it was simply that product, The Adventures of Superman, would not have existed without that sponsor. And so it was a way for people that were passionate about a subject to watch.
Sure. But this is happening, right? I mean, Thoughtbot has like
George
4
Reeves.
podcasts.
Thank you, George Reeves.
Right. Dockyard has a podcast, to my knowledge. I know I listened to the Thoughtbot one side. I thought Dockyard has one. Maybe they do or don't anymore.
But does you know my point? You get my yeah.
Well, but that's what I'm going to challenge you. For consulting shops, the entities themselves are putting on the podcast, right? Like internally, total honesty. About a month ago, we were talking about producing our own, Buccaneer Tech podcast or Buccaneer Hour, whatever we call it.
Mm-hmm. The Buccaneer Hour. I like that.
It just didn't happen because cutting
it takes a lot of work. Yeah.
It takes a lot of work, and it's a long-term investment, and I'm really not a big fan of long-term investments. I like – and that's part of the reasons I like direct sales, right? It's not magical. I go to a conference. I spend X dollars. I close any sale greater than 0. That is an ROI. Now, initially, the ROI might be negative, and it may take 6 months to a year for that relationship to pay off, but there's something I can put into an equation and kind of get data back on it. And this may be that
hold on, not to interrupt you, but Shadow 7 is about to lose his S because he says the mic's making a bunch of noise, and I have heard it. There might be like the cord or sorry.
Am I too close? Hang on.
No, you're good. The range is good, but I think it's like maybe something.
No, I know exactly what it is. Okay. I know exactly what it is.
Shadow, Mr. Dominic is on it. Don't lose your S.
I have moved the cord.
It's negative in the freedom
it's good.
dimension.
Is that good? Now listen, I just want to say there was something wrong with my mic.
Hey, it turns out there was actually something wrong with this mic.
Yeah, poor bastard. He was actually right, and they just hammered him for it.
Okay, so back on track though.
Back on track.
I like this. I like where you're going with this. Like you were looking at doing a podcast because it's great branding. It gets awareness about what you do. People. Honestly, one of the ways people probably would.
The plan was to call you and try to make a deal, right? To say, listen, do some sort of deal where you guys put it in your, whatever. But the problem is the production costs and the idea of having someone on staff to do that, like all the crap that Rikai does, was unbelievably expensive.
That I think that's probably where a podcast network still remains sort of relevant is that infrastructure. But it is getting within. I'm experimenting with tools for user error that bring it within the range of somebody that has 5 to 6 hours free a week, which is still pretty expensive. But it's getting within that range. If you have 5 to 6 hours a week, you could sole produce a podcast.
See, that's so funny. You say 5 to 6 hours. The numbers I came up with, like 10 hours to do true production. Yeah. Although we wanted to do video as well.
No, well, okay. Now.
Yeah. So
now I'm doing.
It was a half-time job, so someone was going to have to be on payroll to do it.
Yeah. See, with video, my compromise there is if you look at the user error show, there's a video component, but podcasting has recently, audio podcasting is growing faster than video podcasting still. In all fairness, video podcasting is sort of, there is only so much appetite for really long form content, and then most people want audio content if they're going to listen for a long time because it allows them to multitask. They can do the dishes, they can drive, they can sit at their desk.
I mean, I am like that. I want audio. I hate video podcasts, actually.
Yeah, that's how everybody. A lot of people feel that way. The people who. Yeah.
You know how many posts we've written on Buccaneer.io, like, getting started with Ionic or Ionic List Views 101 in particular, where we've gotten emails and, hey, kind of starting out. I know you guys are a consulting shop. I'm just wondering, is there a video to go along with this?
Yeah, here's why. Yep. And this is why. This is the number one reason why all JB shows have a video component, even shows like Coda Radio that are primarily audio. Because when you are in full-on research mode, when you're researching a topic,
Right.
YouTube and platforms like YouTube, in fact, actual statistic here, YouTube is the #2 search engine. Not Bing, it's YouTube.
really?
Yeah, it's YouTube. And because people are looking stuff up on YouTube. A lot of people tell me, hey, I found Jupiter Broadcasting on YouTube. I've watched some of your shows. I did a little binge watching on YouTube. And then I switched over to the main website and subscribed to the RSS feeds. And so video is super important for discovery. It's super important for sharing. And for people who are cord cutters like me, I watch the majority of my content on YouTube. So shows being on YouTube is very important to somebody like me. But if you look statistically at our downloads and if you look at the growth for shows like Jupiter Broadcasting and other networks, audio continues to remain to be dominant. It's huge.
So it's funny you should mention cord cutting. One, I was a cord cutter, and then I mended the cord, so to speak. Two, I have just discovered on YouTube, and I know I'm living in 2008 here, like independent musicians doing covers of pop songs.
Yeah.
I will name one because hopefully she'll get some more hits. Tiffany Alvord, who does like Katy Perry and Taylor Swift. Yeah, send your hate mail to Alan at Jupiter Broadcasting, by the way.
You know, that would be a much better use. If you simply wanted to generate, okay, so here's how
why not? My point is, why not sponsor non-technical content?
Well, I think if you guys did video content, like bursts of video stuff that people who are trying to research some of this stuff and learn about it, and oh my God, this is so obvious. I can't even believe we're even saying this out loud. This is one of these ideas that's so obvious to me. It's going to sound dumb once I say it. You should be producing videos about the things that you are, the services, like if it's Ionic, great. Do a video, something about Ionic specific, about 3 to 5 minutes long, so it doesn't take a lot of work, but also people that are researching, the number one thing they're looking for is quick information. They don't want to watch it. The problem with yesterday's Linux Action Show is it was an hour and 35 minutes long. If you want to know about...
Show is super long.
If you want to know about software-defined networking, do you want to watch an hour and 35-minute long video, or do you want to watch a 5-minute video? If you just want the answer, you're going to watch the 5-minute video. When you're trying to consume everything about a subject, you'll watch the hour-long video. I really think if you're just looking for referrals and pickup and information, if you want to look like an authority on a topic, you publish well-produced videos, a certain length of time, don't go over 10 minutes, on a topic. Then say for more information for consulting, refer back to your website, give them your name, that kind of stuff. That I think would be a way better use of your time than podcasts.
So let me challenge you though, right? Because I've actually been talking over the last few weeks to a ton of marketing consultants and SEO consultants, and they all go by different names: SEO, marketing, social, blah blah blah, whatever. And they all do the same job, right? I mean, it's like developer versus engineer versus pro. We all do the same goddamn thing. I've showed them my Google Analytics on Buccaneer.io and DominicM.com, and frankly, they said, I don't understand why you would ever want to hire me. All of them. Like, don't you think that there is, I don't know how to say this, so I'll say it bluntly. For me, the best type of sales are the traditional outbound, call me Don Draper, 1960s style, go to a bar in New York where it's totally acceptable to drink at 11:30 in the morning and have a couple drinks with some IT manager. Like, that is the most effective channel
Every single time, but
right, every single time without fail.
But there's there's a huge caveat, and that is that shit don't scale, bro. Like,
no, it doesn't scale, right? So right, I can't hire salespeople. Every time I've hired a salesperson, they've effectively not performed well.
You have to have when you do that kind of sale, you have to know your prey. You have to understand your prey's habits, and you have to understand the pain points that they are willing to spend a lot of money to resolve. The stuff that is fundamentally functional to their business that you could make better. And those are really kind of research intensive.
How do you scale that? I mean, this is the thing. Everybody, you were talking about.
You can't. That's what I'm saying. That's why those kinds of salespeople, and I was one of them, make a lot of money when they do that.
I'm effectively a dev and an enterprise sales guy.
Yeah,
right?
I was a dev and the IT guy. And I was the sales guy and the IT guy. So there was a point where it was my point of personal pride that I seemed to have this sort of ability to go in and talk to the business people and understand how their business worked and figure it out. And what I would do is I would get excited about the ways I could make their processes better with technology. And so then I would go into a sales meeting because, guess what? I figured out a way I could make this better for all of you. And then I would pitch it because I actually liked it. I genuinely enjoyed the idea that I'd come up with. And so I wanted to share it with them. And
it's not only that, if you've been to lunch with them, if you've had a drink with them, there's a little bit of camaraderie where you now have someone inside the organization who is looking at you with a friendly eye, right?
Those are the kind of clients. Those kind of clients, I honestly believe, if I called them today, I could have a great conversation. I could go out to lunch, and maybe I'd have a shot at landing that client again, and get them to leave their existing. Possibly, I don't know what the relationships are with them. Like those were really strong connections, but those I feel like takes so much work that it not only does it not scale to add other staff, but simply you got other stuff to do.
So this would be a great point for an ad read because I have a question that's going to pivot us down the rabbit hole.
All right, very good. Well, let's talk about a way where you can do a little tactical training for yourself at Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/coders. That'll support this show, and then you can sign up for an unbelievable rate. Linux Academy is an entire platform around learning not just Linux, but all of the great technologies around it. Labs, hands-on types of labs where you can really get experience, which helps with that not only test anxiety. I was trying not to say performance anxiety because that implies something else, but it helps with that performance anxiety when you're actually doing the work. And that's what I think is great about their labs. The instructor mentoring is real human beings. That's pretty sweet. But they have availability planners. We were just talking about how you don't have time. There's not enough time. They have these systems in place where you can go in and tell them how much time you have, and courseware can be generated. But on top of that, and I think this is probably, if you're an adult, and you've actually managed to get a little bit of grasp around like how you spend your time, a little bit of self-control involved here, you can say, let's look at their learning paths. These are a series of courses and content planned by instructors at Linux Academy for specific types of job courses and career tracks. And what I like about these is you can say, all right, self, this is 6 to 7 hours of work, and I can figure out where to fit that in, or I can decide when I'm going to make that commitment. And it allows you to really wrap your head around that kind of commitment. And the thing that is sweet about the Linux Academy platform is they realize that there's times where you're going to hit it hard, and there's times where you're going to back off a little bit. You're going to wait for time to dedicate yourself. And they have courseware to fill those gaps into. Not only are they always updating the stuff you've already learned, so you can always go recheck that and see what's been refreshed, but they have nuggets, and they have flashcards, and they have shorter tracks that still allow you to get value out of your Linux Academy subscription. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders, check them out, learn more, and then sign up. It's getting cold outside. You know it's coming. They call it fall. Go get yourself some edumacation while the leaves are falling. linuxacademy.com/coders. I just made that up. They can take it, and they can run with it. All right, Mr. Dominic, I'm continuing to look at the links in the show notes and going, that was going to be interesting, but I'm fascinated by where this goes.
Well, we can jump out, but this is your last chance because I'm going to put us down the rabbit hole here.
No, it's good. It's good because
I
haven't even gotten into the summit that are the conference that I just went to. So I still have my story to share if we get to it, and it's I think it's interesting because it is something that I've refined over time. But go ahead, sir.
Are you sure you want to take this red pill now?
I'm ready. I'm brave. And you know what? I don't even think I'm in a matrix. So you're going to have to shatter my reality.
All right. So I have hired over my limited career at least 4 salespeople. That sounds right. And various sales agencies.
Sure. Yeah.
And they have all done either okay or not done super well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
5. I'm told it's 5. I have a real-time correction from HillaryClinton.com.
Yeah, real-time fact checker.
Real-time fact check. Here we go.
Now, hold on. Our Mike Shenanigans is back. I don't know what's going on over there.
Oh, I'm putting my hands up. I'm zipping my pants up, and we are okay.
You know, I'll tell you, from my perspective as somebody who's done sales, the only stuff I was really good at selling, both with my clients and with my personal friends and family, was stuff I cared about.
So what I found, and that's very different, by the way, in my experience, because I don't care about anything.
Enthusiasm is infectious. People, when you get excited about something, people get they can't help but get interested.
I cannot express how much I love Swift, and that is 100% not sincere. I mean, totally sincere.
I think it comes across from time to time when you get excited about something. I could tell sometimes.
That's true.
I think like legitimately when we talk about DigitalOcean, that shit is
I do love
fancy, right? I legitimately,
There's something like spending $5 for a server and then reselling it.
And the fact that right, the markup is fantastic if you want to do so, because people will pay ridiculous amounts and you're paying $5, and they even have an infrastructure that makes that even legit. Like if you later want to transfer to them, but this isn't okay. Okay, all right. Use the promo code Coder Digital. This is our ad. Damn it, Mike. All right, because then we're just gonna open the floor. Yeah. Okay. So just because. Yeah. This is an example. This is like part ad, part content right now. We're going to do what's called a native ad. Get ready. So honestly, one of the things that I like a lot about DigitalOcean is the UI. As somebody who had to manage VMware servers and had to use different open source UIs to manage Zen and KVM servers, somebody who actively uses a Proxmox system, none of their interfaces are even 1% as good as DigitalOcean's interface. That's legitimately something I have struggled with for a decade. Since the days that virtualization was barely a possibility on x86 hardware, I have had to F around with these horrible interfaces. And when I went to go use DigitalOcean and I grokked the entire UI in about 30 seconds, it was fundamentally a game changer for me. Now the fact that I can spin up a system like that when I want to try out some wackadamy thing, all of a sudden, it's amazing. Then I move these things into production. I can have my family and my friends use them and know they're going to get outstanding performance. All of that is legitimately exciting. And that's how I'm able to talk about DigitalOcean. And the problem is, unless you are actually interested in the product, how do you sell it? And that's why some of these sponsors, they stick around for a long time because A, I'm not using another VPS. I really like this one, and I think it's the entire package that matters. And B, what would I do? Would I jump around all the time and claim, oh, this day I love this VPS, that day I love that VPS? That's ridiculous. That's disingenuous too. That doesn't work. So you got to find salespeople who really like the product they're selling, and they understand why it's important and why it's a game changer, and they're able to convey that excitement to the client or to the audience or whoever it is. DigitalOcean.com. Use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. This is the sell right here. You go over there, you use that promo code, you apply it to your account, you'll get a $10 credit. That usage of the code lets them know you heard about it here. Unless you use that code, they don't really know for sure or not if you've used it. And only if enough of you do it, do they continue to support. So use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. Plus, the great thing is that $10 credit, you could run that $5 rig for 2 months for free. But the thing that I do all the time is I spin up I think it's like 3 cents an hour. It's got 2 cores. It's got a lot of storage, all SSD backed, plenty of RAM, and I run it for a few hours while I try something out. And if you use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, you could do a lot of that. You could learn, you can experiment, all of it. DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code CODERDIGITAL and try it out. All right, Mr. Dominic. So that's my thoughts on sales.
Let me just extend your DO ad for 1 second. There is one other beautiful feature of DigitalOcean that we've never mentioned.
Bring it, brother.
It's an actual server with a static IP address.
Yeah, that's nice.
Adds a lot of easiness to, how do you say, DNS routing, I guess. Where other cloud-hosted platforms as a service,
especially with
cause all kinds of issues.
Yeah, droplets all over the world.
So,
all right, for days.
My point. So, we're done. Dio, you've got your 2-minute ad. We love you. You knew what this was, Dio. You knew what this was.
You know what you got into.
You knew we were never going to leave our closet servers. Chris, do you still have a closet server, by the way?
Just one, running Proxmox here in the JB Studios, and it's mostly because we use it for like media playback and stuff like that, so it just kind of makes sense. But that's it now. I may be building one in Lady Jupiter in the future, but it won't be quite the same thing. Yeah.
I have a closet Windows 2003 server.
Whoa.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Anyone who has a closet Windows 2003 server needs a drink and some help in that order. All right. So sales. What I have found hiring salespeople is that when it's not me doing the Don Draper style sale, we quickly become commoditized. What I mean by that is we just become, development as a utility. Some developer who this agency is going to resell their services. Now that sometimes happens when I do the sale, but it's very interesting that when I have a third party or an employee or whatever doing the sales process, those are the only people who find us attractive. And then it's purely a price sale, which I would be curious about your experience, because I have found that being in a commoditized position is just not the world I want to live in. Like, it's really, geez, it's hard, right? I mean, it's not just hard and it's not just demoralizing, but you have an account and that account will always leave you. And of course, theoretically, any account could leave you at any time for virtually no reason. But the idea that if you're hired because you are the cheapest solution, and that's a world, particularly in like 2013, I really lived in. That's real tough, because then if there is some college kid who will do the job or some cheaper solution, or they're the least bit happy, you have nowhere to go from that. Does that sort of make sense?
It does. And I guess what I was kind of reflecting on is this is why I want to go back to, I think this is where you have to detach a little bit. And if you do look at spending a little bit of time producing some content that maybe people that are in absolute research mode would save them some time, or would give them insight that then would make them inclined to want to come to you for further services, that is a process that at least automatically generates leads. And so it allows you to focus on one or two direct sales yourself, because you're the best salesman for yourself and your company, while you have this other product out there that may slowly be bringing leads in from time to time. Is that crazy?
It sounds magical to me.
Maybe.
I don't. Geez, I don't believe in miracles. I mean, that's the most depressing thing I think I've ever said on this show. But I honestly don't. I don't believe in it, right? And I've been talking to all kinds of inbound consultants and all kinds of lead gen consultants, and there's this magical thinking around. We have a lot of listeners to the show relative to most. For the majority of podcasts, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong. You could be lying to me, I guess. Websites have a lot of hits, and God damn, conversions suck. Right?
Yeah, bad. Yeah, real bad.
I mean, really. I know you're trying to sell the Patreon thing on Unfiltered and stuff. I can only imagine what your numbers look like.
Yeah,
it's got to be hurtful. I mean, we have these guides that we, I spent some money and I wrote up these PDF guides and everything. Yeah, I'm still not ahead on those.
Yeah,
it's really like, this is. People tell me that outbound sales is dead. Is it dead because it's just not like something you want to do? Or, is it dead because it's really dead? Because I get the feeling that, and maybe, please challenge me on this. You're a content guy. I'm really not. I would rather spend, $20 on a high-end drink in Manhattan than a couple $100 on some piece of content, even if that $20 is only going towards one potential client. Because I looked at some of the email addresses. It's mostly, it's mostly kids in college trying to see if they could get into app development, right? It's like, okay, or I'm helping my competitors.
I would say, so I guess the part that I would agree that if you have the contact lined up and the meeting lined up, the money is much better spent on the drink than it is on an advertising buy. I would think that the primary issue would be.
Well, I'm not talking advertising buys. Let's just be totally clear. That's a whole nother ball game I was going to get into in a minute. But I'm just saying developing the content itself.
Okay. I guess, see, the part that I would challenge you on is getting that initial meeting and lead in the first place that even leads to the drink. How do you even get that far?
Okay. That's interesting, right? So that's where we get back into and this is probably a great time for your war story about the conference you did or didn't go to. And maybe I could delve into what was going to be my original topic about why I didn't go to the Release Notes conference. Okay. So please tell us.
Sure. So for about a month now, it's interesting how conferences are run. Behind the scenes, there's I really in my sphere, there are two different really types. There's community conferences and there's business conferences. And the community conferences, you start chatting maybe 6 months out, and then, a month out, you get a little more serious. And then about a week before it gets real serious. And it's sort of back and forth and sort of vague. And, you kind of see what happens when you get there. We'll just see how it goes. And you kind of just take the plunge and you go. I'm talking from a business, like a one business talking to another entity kind of relationship. Not so much from like a fan or community, whatever. Then you get to your professional business-run conferences, like the ones run by the Linux Foundation. So I was contacted by a representative of the Linux Foundation maybe 2 months ago and had weekly to maybe twice a week emails with this individual right up until the day of the conference. And I've now had a series of emails after the conference too. And it's much more planned. 2 weeks before the conference, we had our meeting times on the calendar for our interviews, and I even knew which room of the conference center it was going to be in. That would sound like a good thing. It also tells me, from somebody who's gone to a lot of events, it's going to be a boring conference. It's going to be boring. It's going to be very thick on the business, very thick on the platform side, on making revenue, I was like, ugh. So I wasn't totally jazzed up about going to the Open Daylight Summit because I thought it was going to be a very businessy conference run by business for people that want to make money. Because those are the ones that have enough money to run them well. And I got there and my initial concerns were confirmed when immediately the entire building was themed for this conference, including the inside and outside. Even the escalators had banners on them, and the elevator doors had huge stickers on them. Delicious food throughout the entire expo hall, a really well done entire theme, an outdoors camping theme that included an Airstream trailer, mock campfires, trees, and wood hut displays with LCD televisions embedded in them, and then every presenter even had wood framing across their slides. I mean, we're talking top-notch production here. And I was like, oh, geez, this is going to be awful. And past Chris probably would have immediately regretted being there and hated the entire thing and just had to be drugged from thing to thing. But see, now current Chris, he shifts into a different mode. See, he shifts into a mode that is, I'm going to talk to a few people, I'm going to make some business relationships, and then I'm going to go out and enjoy the venue, and then I'm going to come back, get the job done, talk to some people, make a few exchanges, and I'm going to get out of here. Because I actually find there's even incredible value in what sounds like all of this time, you do this huge trip, you travel somewhere, you plan something for 2 months, you get 3 more people involved, whatever it takes, and then you end up spending a few hours there, you shake a few hands, you spend a couple more hours talking to a few people, and you get out of there. What was the point? Well, I ended up in that time making a few great conversations on the side, talking to another individual about a conference that's coming up in the future that I'd like to attend, and now I kind of have an in there. In the past, it's led to brand new shows on the network, some that have started, some that haven't. Just kind of talking to people individually at being there. There is some value in being there and making these connections. And I just sort of have different modes for different conferences. There's some where I go to immerse myself in the conference, and there's some where I go there and I'm sort of like a high-level business strategy mode. And so I was able to turn a conference in the past that would have been a real, oh God, we're going to go do this thing where I barely understand half the stuff these people are talking about because this entire industry is brand new. And some of them have very, very, very hard communication issues. So it's hard to understand what they're saying, let alone the slides are packed full of information that they just have these unbelievably long URLs on wiki pages to go get more slides. And you could never you literally have to take individual pictures of the slides to get the URL. So then you can type it into your keyboard like a monkey to go get their actual information. I mean, there's really thick stuff, and I just would have hated that in the past. But now with this new perspective, I was able to go in there, and I was able to kind of grok what they're trying to do, why this is important to them. Then I got a real good handle on the business reason this is important to companies like Cisco and Ericsson and a whole bunch of others, and HPE. And then I was able to talk to the people that run the project, people who use the project, get a good handle on stuff, and then I called it good, and we got out of there. And we spent 1 day at a 2-day conference, and I think it was the perfect amount where we didn't spend too much money or our time doing something that I didn't really enjoy. And when I got there, I made sure to do things in a way that were actually still managed to be productive. I've given up on the direct sales stuff. I don't even bother with that at conferences anymore, unless somehow a conversation were to go that way. I don't even go there with that in mind. In fact, most conferences, I even forget to bring my cards now. Angela brought a whole batch for me, so we were able to give out cards. But most conferences, I forget to even bring business cards because I'm more interested in in infusing my content and informing my opinion about stuff and maybe getting a little bit of perspective on the way trends are going, and I'm less interested in establishing a client relationship or something like that. So that was, I was able to turn it around. In the past, maybe even a couple of years ago, I would have not enjoyed that. But this time around, I was not only was I able to enjoy it, but I actually kind of found the gems in it and kind of walked away with a better understanding of a pretty fast-growing industry. Yes, business cards are still a thing. I know. I had the same thought. I hate business cards. In fact, one year, I'm not joking, just to try to stand out, I did individualized sticky notes, but I probably didn't look very professional, but I thought it was fun. So I'd like individualize it to each person with our contact information on it.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Nope, no.
Yeah. All right. So, wow, there's just a lot there.
I know. That's
That was
what
like
she said.
That was like a filet mignon. I've heard that that's not the case.
Oh, what? Rumors are to the contrary, my friend.
Yes, well, you know, this wouldn't be a question for other podcast hosts. We've seen it all, baby.
Huge hands. Anyways, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm building a wall right now. I can't talk anymore. Okay. So, see, this is the difference between you and I. You are a fairy princess. You see light and goodness in the world. And I am craven and horrible and transactional in everything I do. I would never blindly go to a conference and think that I'm going to close a sale.
I have determined. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Right.
All right. I've determined. I'm damn determined to make content out of anything, I suppose.
So let's like open the kimono totally. You know, well, one of the reasons I didn't go to release notes is because I wasn't invited. I actually was going to go as a guest, right? A normal person who paid for it.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the point in going then? Honestly.
What? Where's the fun in that, you mean?
Well, not to be totally craven about it, but unless you're invited by somebody who can introduce you to people, you're just like every other schmuck there trying to, hustle.
He's a jackass.
Oh, Barack, you've been invited everywhere. Don't even start.
Hello, everybody.
That's true. He has to agree.
But seriously, no. But
yeah,
come on,
yeah, you're right.
I mean,
no,
you know
you're
what
right.
I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to be invited to go to a session or to a conference by somebody, and you even if you're there just without a press pass or just as a regular conference attendee, still if someone's there and introduces you to people, you automatically have people to talk to. If you're just there alone, kind of on the make, that's horrible.
However, there is perhaps a pressure to perform. You've been invited.
Chris,
They've been invited.
I mean,
because
some of us don't have a performance problem.
You know what I mean. There's an expectation that you're invited because you have a certain reach or something like that, and so there's an expectation that there'll be some benefit to them for going to all the hassle. The hassle.
Okay.
The hassle.
Well, and let's be brutal, right? The people who are going to invite you to conferences are totally craven as well, right? They are. I mean, how many times do we get emails from a large software company about, going to their conferences?
I would say that it's absolutely a mutual,
It's a mutual using kind of thing, right? Maybe it's because you do a lot of pot. Is that true? I'm trying to get you arrested on the air.
What are you talking about? What's that got? What? Pot? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I've heard stories about you, Chris. A green mist around you.
I don't know if that.
Just keeping you honest.
That's not a green mist. It's a green screen.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Now, no, the conferences, they're not PodCon. What are you talking about? No, I really think what it is there's different modes for different conferences. Now, if I had to pay, I mean, that was a lot of money. If I had to pay that much for a conference, I don't think I would be as inclined to be excited about it. So that's where it's sort of.
And obviously, I mean mercenary, not craven. Craven apparently means cowardly. I thought it meant mercenary, but
I think. Oh, okay. Oh no, you meant more mercenary.
I mean more transactional, right? So let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. If Twit invited JB to a conference, would you go?
What kind of conference?
Well, right. That's my point. Any conference. I mean, what do you want it to be?
It would have to be something worth my time. That's right,
because
that's the line.
If Thoughtbot invited me to a conference to represent Buccaneer, who's going to hire Buccaneer and not Thoughtbot if they can afford Thoughtbot? That's kind of where I'm coming from, right? It puts you in the total commodity position. I'm not saying anything about you. This is, taking it away from the Twit, JB.
Wow.
Was that an epic burn?
I don't know because I'm not quite sure. I don't think so, but I guess I follow your line of thought.
Right. Like, okay. If Microsoft invites me to a conference, it's because they would love me to sell Xamarin, right? Like, that would make them so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever weird thing they're pushing next week. If Ionic invites me to a conference, there's a reason. Amazon, reason. DigitalOcean doesn't do conferences to my knowledge. What do you see? I don't understand, and this is why I didn't go to Release Notes. What would I gain by going? Especially that one in particular, where it's just a bunch of people trying to do indie app development, which is kind of a market that's dead. I mean, you just can't make that much money on the App Store unless you're a big brand and you're a service and you have money and funding and things like that. I mean, look at the sessions, making money in the App Store, in-app purchases, App Store economy. It's all kind of grim, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too. Part of it is you could say that I've been doing apps for so long that I'm a little meh on them, right? I'm a little
Sure.
Well, unless you're a company who needs an app internally, I think you probably ought not to do the app unless you get funding from VCs or angel investors.
Sure.
But if you invite me to, let's say, Northwest Linux Fest, well, that kind of makes sense because all those people are corporate, right? The System 76, Red Hat. I mean, these are people who have money and are making money and they're healthy businesses. They're not desperately trying to, scrape a living out of rocks, so to speak.
Yeah. I think for the record, I'm going to play this piece right here.
I listened to a podcast, a Linux podcast from the Jupiter Broadcasting Network.
Oh, that's a great show.
Linux section.
I love those guys.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
the best. I think that's the best Linux podcast out there. It's the only reason I don't do one is because they're doing it.
Oh, now what were you saying, Mr. Dominic? What were you saying?
Listen, and he has an excellent penis. Move us.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Q.
No, you make a great point. And I think specifically, I think you sized that conference up pretty well.
Right. I mean, and listen, it's the same reason I don't go to Microsoft conferences, right? Because there's a bunch of, frankly, offshore .NET vendors who are on the make, and I really can't beat $40 an hour. I just can't do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. On the other hand, when Thoughtbot has conferences and occasionally I'll get an email about them, I'm like,
Here's where I think open source ends up making people money is
Okay.
a lot of folks out there I have watched now for years at different conferences, and they've slowly built up connections in the community. And now, like, they've become known as somebody that people go to for problems, and they get business from that. But it's been like this slow burn, and I think that's the way people. That's the real problem with cracking that particular nut is if you want to pick up people at a conference like that, you have to already be known when you get there, or you have to be, or like you said, you have to be invited.
That's my whole point, right? You have to be invited, or you have to be known. I mean, I guess if Taylor Swift walks into a Linux conference, people are going to know her. I don't know why I picked Taylor Swift, but I just like Taylor Swift. What can I say?
Yeah, I suppose that's probably true for any community if you establish yourself over a while.
Right.
I honestly do think if you, I guess here's what I would say. One more pitch for the content thing it's not going to end your life or your business to try 3 videos. Just, start a video, start a YouTube account, throw some art up there.
First of all, no one has offered to sell me 1 video or 3 videos. People
I'm
want
not
to sell
saying
retainers. I'm just saying.
I'm saying make it yourself.
Oh, you're just how the hell do you do that?
Well, yeah, that does take time.
Yeah.
But really, I think if you had a couple of quick type videos on a subject that people are interested in right now, with some quick branding, nothing excessive, you may get some residuals from that over time.
I mean,
you'd have to crack what people are searching for.
Is Rekai open to freelancing? I mean, to me that seems like the most obvious solution.
And you could ask him.
I'll ask him, Rekai.
There are a lot of ways to do it because one of the nice things if you're making it yourself, if you use like capture software for your Mac or something like that, you could record it and release it. You don't have to release it in a day. You could release it over. You could work on it for 3 weeks. I would use
capture software on my Linux machine because Swift is the programming language.
Simple video recorder on Linux is my favorite.
Bing me. your product is content, though. Do you maybe think you're overselling content, or am I just underselling content? Am I just saying?
No, I'm saying you should experiment. Here, the hard part of if you have something to share and you have something people are interested in, the hard part of sharing it is nailing it just right, because you want it all comes down to the title, to the tags, how you pitch the entire video,
the outfit you wear if you're in the video.
These are all details, but it's really about figuring out the market. And if you can figure that out, you can eventually get the rest there. It's just worth an experiment because...
Oh, it is. I mean, last time you told me we should experiment, we were in college, and it was a little different, but...
It was fun, though.
For you.
Oh, okay.
Just stroke it a little bit.
That's a whole different show that Donald Trump would not approve of.
I don't know. I wouldn't say if you have a lot of things on your plate, it's worth experimenting with. But if there was ever CPU cycles that opened up, it's worth poking at the idea of having content created. I mean, I guess you could try outsourcing it too. It might be worth voicing it yourself or something like that, so when people talk to you, they hear the same voice. Here's one of the things that was good for our sales. For the client that I worked with, for a long time, before I went off and did my own independent contracting and really kicked off JB, I spent some time producing videos for my employer, they established the client in the contract and they sent me out. And I had lots of clients then. And so as we sort of refocused my work to kind of focus on the higher end client and sales types work, we had me also pick up a video component where we recorded things like how to use Outlook properly and how to do this or that correctly. Just like quick videos that the person who knows just enough to be dangerous in the office with IT, when they're looking something up, they might come across these videos. And we did get hits from it. But the other thing they were able to do is they were able to use that content in their sales literature to sort of establish themselves as experts on subjects. So they would do mailing lists with links out to that. They would have brochures with them, or they would give out USB keys with videos on it that back when people didn't mind doing that kind of stuff.
Do you know what's really fun? Going to a military base and like dropping USB keys in the parking lot.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah.
They love that.
But my point was it wasn't just the direct referrals from the video, it was the positioning it gave them as a brand. And so there was value in it just from that. But the other thing that was great is if they'd watched the video on like how to fix a problem with Outlook or how to use this interesting Outlook tracker or how to use BCC properly. I mean, this was simple stuff, but how to properly use BCC so you don't reveal email addresses to everybody you're sending it to. That we would solve these trivial but hard problems for them, and it would be my face. And then when we would come in for the technical sales meeting, it's that guy in the video. I'm already an expert in their eyes because I just solved a problem for them in Outlook in a video on YouTube. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting across from the table from them, telling them this is the right solution for their business. So that was sort of valuable too, even if it didn't.
The content is sort of it's a credibility building exercise.
Exactly. It's a positioning piece, and it is if you do happen to watch it, then when we have that sales meeting, you've already heard my voice, you've already seen my face.
Now, how did you measure ROI on that?
Well, I don't know because that wasn't my job, but I think the way they did it is they didn't really say, we have to get just hits from this. We're going to use it in our brochures. We're going to use it in our mailing list. We're going to use it in our meetings. And so for them, it was just part of the marketing tool set.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is hard, right? That's because you can look at the views and be like, it's got 800 views, but what does that tell us? Yeah, that's rough. But they had enough. Not only that, but after I left and went and did my own independent contracting, it wasn't just a thing they did because I was there. They actually moved to a larger office and they dedicated a very nice large space to set up a dedicated studio to continue recording those videos with somebody else. And they then brought me in later as a contractor to help advise them on working out some of the final details. So they saw value in it to keep continuing it even after I left. And in fact, they even doubled down on it.
Interesting.
But I would say there are ways to experiment with that without going all in crazy. A couple of screen cap with voiceovers that solve a quick couple of problems for things that people are searching. You put it up on YouTube with a branded YouTube channel for Buccaneer with links back to your site and Twitter account. And plus, it's also something for the Twitter feed, right? It's content now that you can...
Well, let me hit you with this. Why isn't that the business you're in, right? Why don't you just, bill people to make them, podcasts and stuff?
I suppose if I only did one show a week, that's probably what I would do. In fact, actually. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I've never said this before, I don't think, but there was a short period of time when I first started doing JB full-time that I didn't have as many shows, is I did a series of shows for a food magazine that did interviews with chefs in their kitchens. And so they would have an author as the host. So it was a different host every week, which was extremely difficult from a production standpoint. And then they would have a different remote guest chef in their kitchen. And I did the back end switching, encoding, posting, all that stuff for them. But that is some shit work for me. First of all, and so it didn't really. I mean, it paid okay, but it wasn't really enough. And now these days, I legitimately don't. I don't have a spare 10 minutes, so I spend all my time just doing all the shows that I do. But I think about it from time to time. I think also there could have been a period of time where I could have probably helped a lot of radio stations figure out how to get their radio station online live with multiple cameras.
Oh, yeah. In your case, I feel like you should have had a gold rush, right?
Yeah, there was. I saw it, and especially with our local Seattle radio stations, because I had a couple of ins there, and I knew what they were trying to do, and some of them were experimenting with Wirecast at the time, which I was using in production. So, yeah. The problem has always been is that I really only have a good ability to do the things I enjoy doing. And if I don't truly enjoy doing it, I eventually... I think it's an ADD thing. It's not like I'm just saying it like, oh, I can't do things I don't enjoy. I'm saying it's to my detriment. Like there's like pay my AMX bill. Guess what? I don't enjoy doing. So guess what? I never do, even though I intend to pay it every single month. I just don't simply. It's not something I do because I don't like it.
You're aware they charge you more when you don't pay it.
Yeah. I'm on top of it now because I got reminders and stuff, but I have to build up a system around it.
Amex has auto pay, right? I'm just throwing all this shit out there. Like
I do know that too. It's a long story.
Like what I do is I auto pay the minimum and then I pay them whenever I remember to pay.
That's what I intend to do, but I just haven't gotten around to it because I got other things to do.
All right. Well, before
this is my problem. My point is that's it. But it comes back when you're passionate about something you want to sell people. That's something to consider. So it's really for you. I think this call about this particular conference was probably the right one. If you were hoping to go there and make sales, I think you were going to walk away very frustrated.
Well, and I think what was going to happen too, and I thought about the sessions and I thought about the things I ended up signing up for was, I was going to go to a lot of dinners and a lot of meetings and a lot of happy hours with guys who I think are crazy, right? Like I was gonna be like, dude, be a consultant. You'll make like double what you make now. What are you doing? It's time to sell out. Like,
yeah,
you're absolutely right. You could do that too. There's no reason.
Yeah, I have been there too. Yeah.
On the other side, I'm having a hard time shipping my apps because I keep doing consulting.
Yeah. So I'm in the opposite position. I could probably make more money if I did consulting.
Right. See, you're a good man. I'm a mercenary. That's. I
don't know. I might just be a foolish boar with his head down with tunnel vision for all I know.
Well, you do use Arch, but we don't want to.
Yeah, that's true. I updated right before the show like a maniac. Well, Mr. Dominic.
So before we go, I have a little bit of unfortunate news here. Now, I don't know how many of you will know the name, but I think you'll know the name of his software project, ZeroMQ.
Oh, yeah.
Hitchens has been fighting cancer since 2010, roughly.
Right.
And this is all from memory. So if I'm incorrect, please, correct me in the comments. Unfortunately, it has come back in April. I was informed on Twitter last night, and apparently it is not looking good. So obviously, thoughts and prayers to his family. If you're not familiar with Pieter, he's from Belgium. He's done, ZeroMQ and a bunch of other open source projects. He's done a lot of writing on open source. He's kind of been really in the community on kind of like big data or asynchronous questions. I don't know how to put it, and I don't want to misrepresent him, obviously, in this sort of time because he can't, come on and correct me. But he's done a lot. He's done a lot of coding, a lot of writing, a lot of things like that. And obviously, thoughts and prayers and all that kind of stuff to him and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds us that time is short. And so if you've been on the fence about doing something that makes you excited or passionate, it might be worth taking the plunge. Just do it, as somebody, some wise person probably said once. I'm not familiar with the phrase. Sounds new to me. Mr. Dominic, where do people want to follow you throughout the week if they want updates from you, or maybe even Buccaneers?
Instead of advertising, just go to St. Jude's and donate to cancer.
Oh, that's real nice of you. You know what? I'll double down on that. So there you go. And let's toss a link in the show notes too. That'd be a good idea. And I think also his Twitter handle, I came across it today. I'll try to put that in the show notes too. Yeah. So people could send him some wishes. I like it. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Coder Radio 225. is in the bag, and we'll hope to see you right back here next week.